Hello and welcome back to Listen Bro. My name is Ethan, and as always, I'm here with my brother and co-host,
Joe.
and it's another storytelling time. Back to our regular format after doing that little movie review.
Yeah.
Before I get into it, though, just a reminder, if you haven't yet, make sure you follow or rate the podcast on whatever platform you are. Leave a comment if you want. And check out our Instagram, Listen Bro Pod, where we occasionally post pictures. We are very hit or miss on that, it seems. But
Yeah.
I'm going to be going first, and I had an idea. This might be ambitious, and we'll see how long I stick with it. But
Okay.
the year 2026 is the 250th birthday of our country.
Yeah. Yep.
I have a plan for about 25 episodes that is chronologically covering the entirety of American history.
Wow.
So
That is
obviously,
ambitious.
yeah, and I don't know. We'll see how much I actually stick to it, whether I try to take a break from it every once in a while, but
Well, if it's 20-some episodes and one episode goes a week,
yeah,
you'd be able to do some breaks and still do it in the year of 2026.
Yeah. But I'm going to cover today a lot of stuff and kind of just hitting the main points, covering the highlights so that I don't spend too much time on any one thing. But here we go.
Right.
In the 1400s, ships from Portugal would sail around Africa to trade with Eastern Asia. That was the quickest route. Other European nations were getting in on the trade, but Portugal was one of the earliest. It was nearly impossible to reach Eastern Asia by land, so they continued the long roundabout journey by sea.
Why couldn't they just go through that? What is that? The Bering Strait or something? Not the Bering Strait.
You could go to the Mediterranean up through, it's not the Bering Strait, but like up by the Black Sea, Caspian Sea.
Yeah. Like close to Saudi Arabia, right?
You could go, like, the Mediterranean would take you down to the coast of Egypt, Israel.
Yeah.
But they were trading with India, China.
Okay.
Modern day, where you have Vietnam.
Trip.
Yeah, so those would only get you so far by water, and then you'd have quite the trip across land. So the easiest way to do it was by sea. Now, Christopher Columbus had a different idea. Sail west across the Atlantic Ocean, and you'll eventually reach Asia.
Okay.
He wasn't the first person to have that idea, but he disagreed with everyone else on how big the globe actually was. He thought it was much smaller. And by this point, it was known for ages that the Earth was not flat. That was not part of this at all.
I was going to say, when I was younger and they taught us this, in third grade or whatever, I pictured it as everybody else thought he was just going to go west and then eventually fall off a cliff because of flat Earth.
Yeah, and that's the way the story's been told many, many, many times, but that was not the case at all. The only reason people weren't doing it was because they correctly determined the size of the Earth, or at least somewhat correctly, and said, if there's nothing between here and Asia, that is way too far.
Yeah.
Which would be correct. So Columbus not only believed it was possible to reach Asia by heading west, he thought it would actually be easier and a shorter trip than sailing around Africa.
Man, was he wrong.
Yeah, he pitched the idea to the governments of England and Portugal, and neither one of them wanted to support his trip. But in 1492, the Spanish monarchs were willing to gamble on the idea.
Okay.
He left Spain with 3 ships on August 3rd, 1492, and on October 12th, made landfall in the Bahamas. And I'm going to be referring to a lot of locations by their modern-day names. That's just to make it easier to follow.
Yeah.
He mistakenly believed he had reached the East Indies, so Eastern Asia.
Yeah.
And he figured
like the
he was
Philippines
on
area, right?
Yeah, that region.
Yeah.
And he knew that there was a lot of little islands, and he was bouncing around on little islands in what's the Bahamas. But he looked for the valuables that many of the Europeans had been bringing back from Asia, but he couldn't find them. So he sailed from island to island for several months and built a makeshift fort on Hispaniola, which is the island that is shared by Haiti and the Dominican Republic. But he didn't actually set foot on mainland American continent on that trip.
Yeah. Oh, on that trip. He made multiple.
He did.
Okay.
He made, like I said, he built a makeshift fort, and then in January 1493, he returned to Spain. Columbus would return to the Americas 3 more times, and on his return, his settlement that he built on Hispaniola was found destroyed, so he left his 2 brothers with more men to rebuild with his brothers in charge. And he went about, again, looking for treasures, but his search for gold was fruitless. At one point, he gifted Queen Isabella of Spain, who funded his trip, sent her a gift of 500 slaves from the Americas, which she swiftly returned, horrified at the idea, considering anywhere that he took over, those people were Spanish citizens, not to be treated as slaves. In 1498, he took a 3rd trip where this time he visited South America before returning to the Hispaniola settlement where his brothers were in charge, where he found that the colonists had revolted against them. So Columbus took over, and he was actually arrested and returned in chains to Spain for the way he was leading that colony.
Wow.
In 1502...
I mean, I've heard that he wasn't a good guy, but man.
Yeah. In 1502, he persuaded the Spanish crown to fund one more trip across the Atlantic. This time he made it all the way to Panama, just 50 miles from the Pacific Ocean, where he had to abandon 2 of his 4 ships due to damage, and once again returned to Spain empty-handed. Now, Columbus did not discover the Americas. There were obviously already people living there, but he wasn't even the first European to visit the Americas. There's a Viking explorer, Leif Erikson, who, one place I read, said that he grew up in Greenland and sailed around the northern parts of the Atlantic to Europe and stuff, but he definitely was in portions of Canada.
Yeah.
And this was like 500 years before Columbus. So he didn't discover the American continents. He wasn't even the first European to visit them, but his expeditions kicked off the age of exploration and colonization in the American continents.
Okay.
And the Spanish were the first to take advantage. Remember, they sponsored Columbus's trips, and they immediately started building forts and exploring, colonizing lands, building an empire. They started in the Caribbean, colonized a lot of islands there, and then they moved to exploring Central America, South America, and Mexico.
Okay.
And a man by the name Hernando Cortez overthrew the Aztec Empire in Mexico in 1519. And St. Augustine, Florida, the oldest continuously occupied settlement in the United States, was established by the Spanish in 1565.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. Very long time ago.
I don't know why, but I assumed that the Mayans were gone before anybody
started coming. So remnants of Mayans. They weren't as strong as they once were. The Aztecs had a big city. I don't know a ton about them.
Okay.
But they were overthrown by the Spanish guy coming through, and they were in Mexico. So by the end of the 16th century, the English were well behind the Spanish.
Yeah.
In 1584, Sir Walter Raleigh sought permission from Queen Elizabeth I to establish a colony in North America. He was granted permission under the English crown to discover and take over any non-Christian territories. So in April of 1584, he sent 2 ships on a reconnaissance expedition that arrived at the Outer Banks of North Carolina. 1 year later, in April of 1585, Walter Raleigh sent around 600 soldiers to explore the area, and after a few months, Ralph Lane and over 100 other men were left to build a settlement on Roanoke Island, while the rest of the 600 returned to England for supplies and to bring settlers. Ralph Lane So he's in charge of the 100 people building a settlement on Roanoke Island. Ralph Lane sent out exploration groups to the north and to the west. They knew the Spanish were to the south, so that's kind of why they stayed north and west.
Okay.
And he concluded that Roanoke Island was not a great spot for it. They should move the colony to the Chesapeake Bay, present-day Virginia.
Roanoke Island, that's the one where, like, everybody went missing, right?
Well, we'll get to that.
Okay. So
he was forced to abandon Roanoke Island in June 1586 after relations with the local natives soured, and he relied on them for food. So those bridges were burned. He had no choice but to leave Roanoke Island. He arranged with Sir Francis Drake, who was another English explorer who just arrived in the area with a large fleet. He was going to have Francis Drake transport his colony north. But as they were loading up the ships, getting ready to leave, a hurricane rolled through.
Ah, of course.
So instead of going north to Virginia, they went back to England. In the confusion and haste of everything, several men were left behind or went missing. So there were some men left on Roanoke Island.
Do you know if there's hurricanes over in Europe?
Not northern
Okay.
Europe. I don't know that there's even any in, like, Spanish area. I
Yeah.
can't say for certain, but I've just never heard
I was
of
going
them
to say, that
there.
would probably be like a crazy brand new storm for them.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was.
Be terrifying.
Yeah. So anyways, they started with 600 soldiers, left 100 there. They left, went back to England with a handful left behind, not intentionally. So in April of 1587, Walter Raleigh sent another group, this time not soldiers. This was 118 men, women, and children under the command of a guy named John White to establish a settlement on the Chesapeake Bay, because the guys before said we should go there, not Roanoke Island.
Mm-hmm.
The pilot of the ship landed them at Roanoke Island and refused to take them anywhere else. So the men left behind from Lane's military settlement before, they were nowhere to be found. Nobody knows what happened to them. Probably killed or taken as slaves. The new settlers dropped on that island where they didn't even want to be, where the English had already burned bridges with the local natives.
Yeah.
They went about
With
repairing
men, women, and children. I mean,
Yeah, this is an attempt at an actual settlement where, like, the previous one was kind of building a fort
yeah.
with military men. So this is, trying to build a colony. So the new settlers, they went about repairing the buildings that the previous Englishmen had built. But just a few days later, George Howe, member of their group, was killed by members of the Roanoke tribe. The colonists retaliated, but accidentally attacked the Croatoan tribe and not the Roanoke tribe.
Oh.
And right around this time, a young, very young baby girl, Virginia Dare, was born. This was the granddaughter of John White, who was leading the colony. And she would be the first English person to be born in America. But with tensions mounting already with the natives, they agreed that they should send somebody to get more supplies to bring back.
Okay.
So just 35 days after arriving, John White left for England. Only made it a month, and he left to go get more supplies. So unfortunately, though, when he got back to England, a Spanish armada had gathered to attack England, which made Queen Elizabeth commandeer every English ship she could get her hands on to become part of the Navy to defend against Spain.
Do you know how long of a trip it took to get from
It was
Roanoke Island to England?
It's like a month or two.
Okay.
Not years or anything.
Yeah.
But because of this, John White was unable to return to Roanoke until the year 1590. This is 3 years later. When he returned, his colony was gone. A fence had been built around the colony, likely as a form of defense, and the only clue was the word Croatoan carved into a post and the letters CRO carved into a tree. John White believed this meant the colonists moved to the island of Croatoan, Makes sense. And joined with the Croatoan tribe, who were friendly with them.
Okay, that would make sense.
So if they were being harassed by the Roanoke tribe, that makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
He asked the ship, because he kind of just hitched a ride with somebody. They weren't, full-on exploring the Americas again yet. They were still dealing with the Spanish. So, there's this one ship going to the Americas. He bummed a ride from them, asked them to drop him off on Roanoke. So he gets there, then he goes back, says, "Can you please take me to Croatoan Island?" They, boarded the ship, start heading that way, and wouldn't you know it, another hurricane blew through.
Oh, man.
It blew the ship out into deep waters, and the next time he saw land, they were at the Azores, which is a set of islands off the coast of Spain. So, for the second time, an English colony at Roanoke was unsuccessful.
Yeah.
England was still falling behind Spain, who was successfully colonizing and building an empire. So in the year 1606, King James I granted a charter to a group of investors for the establishment of the Virginia Company of London, and they were given the right to settle anywhere from North Carolina to New York, what they called the Virginia Territory.
Okay.
In late December, a group of over 100 colonists led by Christopher Newport departed England, and on April 26, 1607, they reached the Chesapeake Bay, where the Roanoke colony wanted to go to begin with.
Yeah.
But this is 20 years later.
That's where that rock is, right?
No, you're thinking Plymouth.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Plymouth, that's right.
They reached the Chesapeake Bay, and they spent a little bit of time searching for a settlement site, and then on May 14th, they unload their ships onto a piece of land along the James River. Now remember, this was started by a group of investors when they established the Virginia Company of London. So this effort to build a colony, now the first attempt at Roanoke was a military colony, and then a men, women, and children colony. Both of those failed. This one, though, was kind of a business venture. Needs to make money. So they saw this as an investment, and the business would make its money through the riches of North America that would be funneled through the colony, whether through trading, farming, whatever, come through the colony and go back to England. Now, soon after arriving, the colony was attacked by the local Powhatan Indians. So they quickly built a fort that surrounded themselves with walls with platforms for cannons. Newport, the leader, he returned to England in June and delivered a positive report telling that, they're in great condition, we're on track for success, everything is good.
Yeah.
The colony, however, had not done the work to prepare them for winter. A combination of bad water, diseases transmitted by mosquitoes, and a lack of food killed some of the colonists in August. Following this tragedy, the council of the colony removed Edward Wingfield, who was the president of the colony, and John Radcliffe took his place. This is 3 months after they landed.
Okay.
And I don't know if I mentioned it, this is Jamestown.
Oh, okay.
This is the Jamestown colony. So Newport, after going back to England, he returned in January 1608 with supplies and more people. Sounds good, right?
Yeah. It's gone bad for them so far, so I'm just waiting.
Well, one of the new members started a fire that accidentally burned down the colony's living quarters.
Of course.
So burned up a bunch of supplies, burned their buildings, which made them even more reliant on the Native Americans for food. Now, keeping with the Virginia Company's objectives, remember, these are businessmen, investors from London. They just want to make money. The colony started searching for gold in the area, neglecting some of the work that they needed to do to sustain the settlement.
Yeah.
A man by the name of John Smith, who you may have heard of from the movie Pocahontas.
I don't know that I've actually seen that movie.
Oh, wow. John Smith, he objected to the search for gold. Was not happy with it.
Mm-hmm.
During the summer, President Radcliffe also ordered the construction of an elaborate Capitol building. once again symbolizing the mismanagement of the colony. And
Yep.
it is unclear whether he was removed or whether he resigned, but Ratcliffe was no longer president, and John Smith became president of the colony in September 1608.
You ever play one of those like civilization games where like you have to try and make a civilization by making the right choices, and if you make the wrong choices it fails?
No, I haven't.
It's kind of what this feels like.
Well,
You're prioritizing the wrong things.
This is what those games would be based on.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the Oregon Trail
man.
game. So, John Smith, he's in charge now, and he announced a new rule. He said, "He that will not work shall not eat unless you're sick."
That's fair.
And under his presidency, none of the settlers died of starvation.
Yeah.
They may have died of sicknesses, but none of them starved. And more settlers arrived in late September, including the colony's first women.
Okay.
So at this point, it had just been men building the fort, defenses, all that. Now they've got women. In the fall of 1609, Chief Powhatan ordered the tribes under his command to stop bartering food and started killing English parties who would come to trade with them.
Why?
He wanted to starve them out.
Oh, man.
So hunting would be the next means of getting food. The natives would kill Englishmen who they found outside the fort. So if they found you out in the woods hunting, they would kill you. Which leads to, obviously, food supplies ran out.
Yeah.
And the settlers were forced to eat their animals, to include pets, and then they turned to eating rats and even shoe leather. It wasn't until hundreds of years later, but archaeological discoveries uncovered the fact that they did have to resort to cannibalism. So this is the winter of 1609 into 1610, and it became known as the starving time for the Jamestown colony.
Yeah.
And during this period, 80% of them died.
Wow.
They went from 500 to around 100. On May 24th, 1610, coming out of that terrible winter, 2 ships arrived that were previously blown off course and wrecked on the island of Bermuda. They carried very little food with them, though. And after finding the starving colony, they decided to call it quits. They said, "We're going to abandon the settlement. We're heading back to England."
I don't blame them.
All the colonists boarded the ships to return to England, but quickly encountered 3 other ships coming toward them, led by Thomas West. He was bringing more settlers and had plenty of supplies, so they turned around and stayed. But they were at the point of giving up for a third time.
Yeah.
Now, a man named Samuel Argall kidnapped Chief Powhatan's daughter, Pocahontas, in 1613. So this is 3 years later.
Okay.
And he used her to negotiate the return of some captured Englishmen and tools and weapons. But the chief only returned the people. He didn't return their tools or weapons that they also stole. So they didn't give Pocahontas back because he didn't meet all their terms. So Pocahontas was kept in an English outpost where she converted to Christianity and became very close with a man named John Rolfe, who was a tobacco planter.
Okay.
Rolfe and Pocahontas, they got married in April 1614, which brought peace between the English and Powhatan for about 8 years.
Oh, that's good.
But John Rolfe, I mentioned he was a tobacco planter, he was doing a little bit of experimenting with different types of tobacco, trying to get things to grow. His tobacco farming became very profitable, and other people in the colony started wanting to do tobacco farming as well, because tobacco is native to the Americas.
Oh, okay. I didn't know
they
that.
Were introducing it to Europe.
Yeah. So they're making a lot of money getting people over there on it.
They're making a lot of money growing tobacco. So by the end of the decade, the Jamestown colony was almost entirely financed from tobacco profits, which makes the Virginia Company's plan from the beginning successful.
Yeah.
It was a business idea. And I was going to go into detail on the Plymouth colony, but we did talk a little bit about the Plymouth colony in my Squanto story.
Yeah.
But that is the other major
That one was a
beginning.
good. I didn't know half of that stuff about Squanto in that one.
Yeah. Well, and I'm going to just do a very quick overview off the dome on the Plymouth colony. So, Jamestown was a business venture looking to make money.
Mm-hmm.
The people who would make up the Plymouth colony were living in England. They were not happy with the Church of England, so they left England, went to the Netherlands, lived there for a few years, but then they were kind of afraid of losing their identity as English Christians. So they got permission to start a colony in the New World. So they, on board the Mayflower, crossed the Atlantic in 1620. Their goal was to land at the mouth of the Hudson River, which is present-day New York City. But instead, they drifted north and were at Cape Cod, which is Massachusetts, and they decided to just land there and settle. And one of the biggest things that came out of this was it was a group of people that paid their own way to get there. And when they arrived, before they left the ship, they wrote up an agreement that all the men signed laying out their form of government.
Okay.
So this is the first written democratic outline of government in American history.
Yeah.
And it was signed by all the members on the Mayflower before they left the ship and started building their colony on land. And of course, they went through their own struggles, but they did have good relations with some of the Native Americans very early on that helped them.
Mm-hmm.
To
and
where
they found a rock.
And they found a rock. Yeah, that's right. When they showed up, they found a rock and said, "This is where we're going to build our fort."
Yep.
But they were much quicker to successfully farming and all of those things. But it kind of shows you
They were a little bit more. They had more to lose, I think, with it.
Yeah,
not being backed by the
not
country
wealthy investors.
Like they, yeah,
and so that gives you. Those are like the earliest England establishing colonies in the New World. You have Roanoke, which was an attempt at a military colony, did not work, and then another attempt to start a colony that put them on Roanoke that also did not work. Jamestown was a business venture that also did not work until other ships showed up, and then they figured out how to make money. And that's one of the differences was they were having that support in England. If they were making money, they could get supplies brought to them. The people on the Mayflower, though, they are the people who left Europe based on a belief in a better life in a new world. Freedom to practice religion the way they wanted. So those are three very different ideas to colonizing.
Oh, yeah.
But that is the foundation of English colonies in North America.
They never did, like, actually figure out for sure what happened to Roanoke, though, right?
No. There is no definitive answer. Like I said, people kind of assume they went to Croatoan Island, joined up with the Croatoan tribe.
Yeah.
Because that's the word they left. And the guy, what's his name, that came back looking for them, is it John White?
Yeah.
He never got to go to Croatoan.
Yeah, that's right.
So he couldn't confirm or deny that.
Lost his whole family there, didn't he?
Right. He had his daughter and granddaughter were there. But yeah, there's no definitive answer. There were stones found with carvings on them about 50 miles from Roanoke Island that kind of matched up with a plan that they had that maybe will move about 50 miles and start, build a colony there. But I don't know. I think maybe those stones with the story carved into them of what happened, they're known as the Dare Stones, named after, what's her name? The granddaughter, the first girl, Virginia Dare.
Something. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
Virginia Dare. They're called the Dare Stones, but I don't, from what I read about them, I wasn't confident that they are looked at as legit.
Okay.
I don't know if there's enough evidence one way or another for them.
Okay. Wow.
But if so, those stones say that they moved 50 miles or so inland and tells what happens. I think they struggled. A lot of them died. But Either way, nobody can say for sure. And there is not a Roanoke colony that survived like Jamestown and Plymouth.
Yeah.
So it is a mystery, but yes. So that is episode 1 of the entirety of American history.
Yeah. That's actually a really cool idea. I do like that a lot. Anyways, I'm assuming my turn now.
Yeah, I was trying to keep that as short as I could.
Yeah. Oh, it's all good.
It's a lot of information.
It is. It's a really neat thing to listen to. So mine's actually based in England as well.
Okay.
Back in 1954, well, 53 and 54. The first 4-minute mile.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize it was that long ago.
Yeah. Yep. Roger Bannister, who was a neurologist student at Oxford. He never did running of any kind before he got into college. They said he never even wore any spikes or ran on a track. Like,
yeah,
he had very light training, but he started like winning races like crazy whenever he was doing track and field in college. Out of nowhere, this random guy that never had training was winning. And 1954 Olympics were coming up and in a couple years from there, and he was actually a decent contender for the longer distance runs. Well, they were also introducing a new sport to the running side, and it was the 1 mile run.
Okay.
That was the first time that they did 4 laps, which equals a mile. And this guy from Australia was like right there, close, like knocking on the door of 4 minutes. He was getting 4 minutes, 2 seconds, and like 58 milliseconds. Like, he was so close.
Yeah.
But Roger Bannister was like, I'm going to try. Like, that, I'm going to actually start training now, considering that I am breaking records for my own school.
Right.
And I've never trained. I'm going to start training and see if I can break that before this guy does. And he broke it in training, but that didn't count unless you were like on the actual racing somebody.
Yeah.
He had 4 minutes 59.73 milliseconds in training, or 3 minutes 59 seconds. And
okay, yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah. And they were doing a preliminary just ahead of the Olympics coming up in 1954. And the preliminary race had this Australian in it too.
Okay.
And right before the preliminary race, Roger Bannister decided to go on a morning jog.
Oh, no.
He no more than left the front lawn, pretty much, of the building that he's staying in. And he cut the bottom of his foot really bad on a piece of glass.
Aren't you wearing shoes?
That's what I thought, but apparently he wasn't. Apparently he did not like wearing shoes until he got to the track.
Dang.
But he cut his foot, and he wanted to keep it under wraps. And like I said, he's a neurological student, so he knows some doctors in the area. And he went to one of them, was like, "Can you please just bandage it up? I know stitches will rip, so don't even bother doing stitches. Just wrap it up and don't tell anybody," because he was still gonna race.
Dang.
Well, the race happened. By the end of the race, his shoe was filled with blood. And obviously the truth came out as to he cut his foot.
Yeah.
But he lost that race by like milliseconds against this Australian.
Yeah.
He was still so close with a very badly cut foot to actually breaking this record still.
So they still didn't hit the 4 minutes in the race?
Nope, not in that one.
Okay.
But at the same time that this is all happening, this is kind of a side story that I ran into. It's interesting too. Sports Illustrated, that magazine that covers pretty much every sport that you can think of, they were wanting to get started. And the race for the 4 minute mile was really heavily being covered. So they wanted to be the first ones to get a really good picture and they had two people they were following, and it was that Australian and Roger Bannister.
Mm-hmm.
When the Olympics came around, Roger's foot healed, he did extra training, and he broke it. And there is a picture that Sports Illustrated took right as they were pretty much crossing the finish line. It is a true photo finish for those two.
I'm going to look it up.
But they say that when the announcer, whose name was Norris McWhirter, I don't know how to say his last name, but when he when he announced who won the race, because the crowd truly didn't know, and he said that Roger Bannister won, and his time was 3 minutes, the crowd started going nuts. Like, could not even hear the rest of the time. His actual time ended up being 3 minutes, 59 seconds, and 4 milliseconds.
Wow.
But he set a world record with breaking the 4-minute mile that day in the Olympics.
Yeah.
It only lasted a couple months. The Australian, he decided he was done racing then. He did what he wanted to do, and he wanted to focus more on his schooling.
Yeah.
The Australian broke that record just a few months later at another race.
Yeah.
But he did break that record. And
wow.
Like I said, the crowd truly didn't even know the actual time. They just heard 3 minutes and started going nuts. But that story alone actually sent Sports Illustrated to like the top of sporting headlines. Okay. They sent somebody over to watch the Olympics and paid big money for them to be posted at the finish line with a camera.
Yeah.
They then had a private jet planned that the second that guy took the picture, he was to book it back to that plane, fly that picture back to the U.S., get it printed on everything they could, because they couldn't just send it electronically then.
Right.
And start getting this magazine out to be the first ones to have it out. So 4-Minute Mile and Sports Illustrated both actually took off at the exact same time. And now the 4-Minute Mile is like a standard. Like, if you can't beat a 4-minute mile in men's racing, there's like no point.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy. Yeah, I didn't know it was that long ago.
I can't remember the guy's name, but do you remember that guy in World War II that went through Japanese prisoner of war camp? The racer, like he was a track and field runner there. The movie Unbroken. Yeah,
Zampolini or something.
Yeah. They said that Roger Bannister was very inspired by that, and that's what made him want to, whenever he saw how much of a chance he actually had, that's what made him want to do it.
It's Zamperini, not Zampolini. Zamperini.
Yeah.
Dang.
But he was inspired by him, and he did break the record. Didn't hold it for long, but it's just funny how somebody that never had the training came in, almost broke it with a really bad cut on the bottom of his foot. Which, why wouldn't you wear shoes?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like, I just don't get that one. But
yeah.
I just love how he went to one of his doctor friends, who was very reluctantly wrapping it up, by the way, and was like, please do not tell anyone. Like, I have to race.
Dang.
Because basically, if he didn't race that race, he wouldn't have got to the Olympics.
Okay. Yeah. Like a qualifying.
Yeah. So that one was pretty short, but I started looking into that a little bit, and it's just really neat story about how the 4-minute mile kind of took place. They were comparing it to sports fans as similar to the space race between Russia and the U.S., believe it or not. Running a 4-minute mile.
Yeah, if you're into that stuff, I can see that.
Yep.
Yeah, there's some interesting stories around different sporting events. Like, I can't think of the guy's name. I don't know the story, but there's like a guy who somebody stole his running shoes before a race, and he was like, fine, I'm running in my dress shoes. And he ran the race in his dress shoes.
There's things of Roger Bannister saying about, like, wearing track spikes is the most uncomfortable thing ever.
That's funny.
He's like, I hate them, but they had to wear them for it and stuff. So.
Yeah.
Oh, and just to clarify, Sports Illustrated technically existed before that, but that company went under, and another company bought the name, and it was doing terrible, and that's why this is the original like Sports Illustrated of our time.
Yeah, it kind of put them on the map.
Yeah, Babe Ruth was being listed in Sports Illustrated well before this.
Okay, yeah.
But it's a complete different Sports Illustrated. So,
Cool.
Yeah, but that's all I had. So,
all right. Well, tune in next week.
Yeah, for more of the American history.
I figure I got to at least get 2 weeks into it before I take a break from it. But
yeah,
I'll probably get farther than that because I really enjoy the story of the founding of America. So,
well, I think I've mentioned to you before, in school, they never really actually taught me American history. They kind of, in between you graduating and me graduating, they switched over to current events is what we were following. We didn't really do anything history. So I'm really excited about this, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff. And it's like, I mean, you could spend a whole episode on Roanoke, whole episode on Jamestown, whole episode on Plymouth. So it's just flying through it. That's why I tried to touch on all those things, but man, it's hard to keep it within a reasonable time unless we're going to turn this into a 2-hour podcast, which I don't think either of us are up for that just yet. Maybe one day. Maybe I'll do that for like something special, but
I think I'd be more up to doing 2 posts a week. And keep your eye out for a follow-up of The Unkillable Soldier. I ended up getting the book, and I'm almost finished with the book, and I want to do a follow-up of that because there's so much more to it.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, one of the reasons I didn't, part of it was for time, but I just started a book called Mayflower, so all the Plymouth colony stuff, so I'll probably do a longer story on that at some point in the future, but yeah, I am curious to hear more about the Unkillable Soldier. He sounds like a crazy guy.
Yep.
And for you to read a book.
I know, right?
All right, well, that'll do it for this week. Thank you for listening. Don't forget, rate, review, leave a comment, and check out our Instagram. Let us know if there's any
stories you want to hear.
Yeah, let us know if you want to hear any stories specifically about American history between 1700 and 1800 for the next 3 episodes for me. And for Joe, anything goes, I guess.
Pretty much anything goes.
But, yep. Instagram, Listen Bro Pod. Try to do better at posting pictures again. And we'll see you later.
Yep. Bye.